Welcome in to the Ravens Rundown by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we will react to the new mock draft from ESPN's Todd McShay and Mel Kiper Jr. as they give their thoughts on who the Ravens should select in the first 3 rounds of the draft. We will go over the picks of who Mel and Todd have going to Baltimore in just a matter of moments. Before we do, I want to get this show out to all the Ravens flock out there. So we need your help to get this out to the masses. So here's what I want you to do. Click the share button on today's video. Select the Twitter icon. Then click post to Twitter. If you tag me on Twitter at Tyler Jones Live, you are getting a retweet. The first 10 people that follow me and share the show, I'm going to follow you back on Twitter. Why? Because I feel like being that type of guy today. So don't miss out on this opportunity. Let's get this show out to the masses, and I'll follow you back if you retweet and share today's show. So here's how this works. Mel and Todd, 2 of the best of friends, they did this mock draft where they went through the first 3 rounds. No trades involved, but they made a pick for every team all the way through the first 3 rounds. And as you know, the Ravens only have 2 picks in the first 3 rounds, first round and third. And so what we're going to do here on today's show is we're going to reveal those picks, show you what Mel and Todd had to say, and I'll react to it. I'll share my thoughts as well and go over the statistics and some numbers and all that. Now, the way that things worked out, actually, just by the way Mel and Todd did this, Todd McShay ended up making both picks for the Ravens. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the 22nd overall pick at the draft. The Baltimore Ravens select Mississippi State corner Emmanuel Forbes here with this pick. And I find it very interesting when you look at this Baltimore Ravens team. We know that they have a big need at wide receiver. They have a big need at corner this draft. And they take care of that corner position right away, getting Forbes here with this pick. Here's why Todd McShay made the selection. The Ravens are looking for a playmaking corner to line up opposite Marlon Humphrey, so I think the guy who picked off 14 passes in college, including 6 pick sixes, makes a lot of sense. Sure, Forbes is only 166 pounds, but his instinct, speed, and arm length make him tough to beat. Mel, I know you're also a big fan of his game. So both Mel and Todd, like Emmanuel Forbes, you get a guy that is going to be a type of player that's going to create a lot of turnovers here, that has that big playmaking ability. I like it personally. We'll tell you more about Emmanuel Forbes here in just a second, but here's your chance to be the GM here on the Ravens Rundown. Should the Ravens draft Emmanuel Forbes? Type Y for yes, type in for no. You might get an ad break. If so, take advantage of it. Get your votes in. Tell me one way or the other. What do you think about Emmanuel Forbes? Y for yes, in for no. Tell me in the comment section below. So here is the background story in Emmanuel Forbes. The number 22 overall player on Mel Kiper's big board, and he is the number 4 corner on Mel's big board as well. A really good year at the cornerback position, and it looks like there's going to be a decent number of corners that will be selected within the first round of this draft, and Forbes' stock has certainly risen as of late. He was a consensus All-American in 2022, and we mentioned those 6 pick sixes he had in his career. That's incredible, right? And talk about alliteration there. 6 pick sixes. Say that 3 times fast. You look at what he did in the playmaking ability, it was just incredible with those 6 pick sixes and the 3 touchdowns that he had this past season. 46 tackles, 10 pass breakups. I mean, just an electric factory of what this guy brings to the table here. And I'll say this much. With Emmanuel Forbes, the only downside of sorts, besides him being 166 pounds, is the coverage stats show that when he is not getting the interceptions, when he is not getting those big touchdowns, he has had moments where the completion percentage is kind of high for that position, allowing 53.4% of passes to be completed, 284 yards, did have 3 touchdowns thrown his direction, did have 10 pass breakups. So with Forbes, you get the good and the bad. It is somebody that should be able to start day one for this Baltimore Ravens team, be outside of Marlon Humphrey. but there's going to be a learning curve of sorts to that too. So something to keep in mind there. Who should the Ravens draft at number 22 overall? Whether it's Emmanuel Forbes or somebody else, who would you like to see in a Ravens uniform in 2023? Tell me in the comments section who you'd like to see the Ravens draft with the pick. Next up, we skip ahead to the third round now, and that's where we find the Ravens going with Mr. Scott. That's Tyler Scott out of Cincinnati at 86 overall. And what did we talk about going into today's video was the two biggest needs when you look at the Baltimore Ravens, assuming Lamar Jackson's coming back, is the wide receiver position and the corner position. You signed Odell Beckham Jr., so you don't necessarily have to go wide receiver in the first round. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. But you do have to get a receiver at some point. And this is where we find Tyler Scott going to Baltimore with this pick at 86. And here's what Todd had to say about making this pick. The Ravens haven't picked since the first round, and Mel went cornerback there. So I guess it's on me to get the Ravens a wideout now. The position is thinning out a little bit, but Scott can be dangerous downfield with his elite second gear. And we'll show you some statistics and tell you more about Tyler Scott. But this guy is somebody that can fly down the football field, that has a lot of speed. He's kind of raw, but he does have a lot of speed, and that could be a nice thing for this Baltimore Ravens team to have in this receiving corps that already includes OBJ and Nelson Aguilar and several others here. What do you think? Should the Ravens draft Tyler Scott? Tell me in the comments section. D for draft. P for Pats, what do you think about the idea of drafting Tyler Scott? Tell me in the comments section below. So here's the statistics from Scott this past year. 9 touchdowns, close to 17 yards a reception, and just a hair under 900 total receiving yards off of 54 catches. And that raw speed, here's what I'm talking about here, folks. 4.29 40-yard dash. That's something else, folks. You're not going to find that every day. He was second-team All-American Athletic Conference this past year, and 4 different times this year he had over 100 yards receiving against Miami, Indiana, Navy, and East Carolina. So when he's on a roll, he's on a roll. He's like butter sometimes. He can be on a roll, right? I mean, that's what you're looking at with Tyler Scott. Of when he's on, and that speed just really messes with some of these defenses here. And 4.29 speed, that'll translate, but there's some other things that need to be worked on when it comes to Tyler Scott. I'll say this. When I look at these two picks, Tyler Scott in the third round and then Emmanuel Forbes in the first round, it's not a bad mock draft, and it takes care of positions of need. Now, you could argue, you could play devil's advocate and say that, maybe you would have taken another corner instead of Forbes, like in Mel and Todd's mock draft. Joey Porter Jr. is still on the board, and they choose Forbes over Porter Jr. for that pick. Maybe you want to go Joey Porter Jr. Maybe you prefer that. Or you go to the third round and you look at the receivers and say, hey, Tyler Scott's really fast, but there's some other guys I potentially like more. You could make that case. But as far as taking care of needs and doing those, Mel and Todd address those there. I think it's a solid mock draft. Grade ESPN's mock draft for me in the comments section, 1 through 100. What do you think of the job that Mel and Todd did with this mock draft? I think it's solid. I would give it somewhere between the 70 to 80 range. Is it perfect? No, but it does what it needs to be done with those two picks for the Baltimore Ravens. Tell me what you think in the comments section. Scale it for me, 1 through 100, ESPN's mock draft for the Baltimore Ravens there in the first and third round. Hit me up on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, also on Facebook at Tyler Jones Live, talking about your Baltimore Ravens there. Folks, it is going to be a fascinating next week and week plus as we get you ready for the draft. We're going to be covering the Baltimore Ravens throughout the draft and bring you instant analysis when players are picked. This is the channel for Baltimore Ravens fans. Stay tuned to the channel. Hit me up on social media as well, where the show doesn't stop there. And I will see you next time right here on the Ravens Rundown. Thanks for joining us.